Hey everybody, I made it. It's Joanne Muse of the Tax Lien Lady live here on Facebook. And I'm hoping you guys can hear me okay. I was late today because I was out and my car wouldn't start. I had to wait until one of my sons came and could start it for me. I didn't have any luck trying to jump start it myself. But I'm here. I'm on Ask the Tax Lien Lady Live, where I can answer your questions about investing in tax liens and tax deeds. And I think my assistant Nicole is here with me. Nicole, let me know if everything is okay, if you can see and hear me on Facebook okay. Because I'm here on StreamYard. And as you come on, let me know where you're from, what state you're from. Just say hello so I know who's here. And also, let me know, were you able to make the Investing for Success Wealth Building Conference that we did last week, Wednesday and Thursday? Let me know if you were able to make that. Okay, hi Cher, how you are? From Georgia. Were you at the conference that we did last week, Wednesday and Thursday, on Investing for Success on Wealth Building? The first day was on the secrets of the wealthy, it was about mindset, what the wealthy do that everybody can do to build wealth and leave a legacy. And the second day was about investing opportunities that you could take advantage of now. Hi, Devlana. Okay, Dallas, Texas. Okay, great. Wasn't able to join last week due to conflicts with work. Well, you know what? If you weren't able to join, you could get VIP access. VIP access gives you access to the recordings and the recordings from last year's conference. But even better than that, because we weren't able to record the Q&A session, I forgot to record it from the first day, I decided to give an extra bonus of wealth building webinar, access to all the wealth building webinar recordings, which is a $490 bonus, plus entrance to the next tax lien investing workshop that we do, which is another $197 value. So for $197, you get a lot more than that in value, like 3 times that in value. All right. And Nicole, would you put the link in the comments for everybody to where they could go to get VIP access to the recordings, again, not only for this year, but for last year's conference, the first one that we did last January. And then the 2-day conference that we had just last week. And then you'll also get access to all the replays of wealth building webinars. Now, our next wealth building webinar, by the way, is tomorrow night with Sarah Sullivan, who was one of the experts that I interviewed in the conference. Tomorrow night, she's talking about 15 ways to make money with real estate. And if you get the access to the conference that we did, you will also get access to the replays of all the wealth building webinars that we've done over the last 2 years, plus for the next year. Okay, because you get access to that for a year. It's free to come to the live calls, but if you want access, it's $49 a month or $490 a year to be a member of the wealth building webinars. But we gift that to you. You get that for free when you get the wealth building conference that we did. All right, and Nicole, when she gets here, she'll put the link in the comments for you. Okay. Because I think she might have got kicked off. Oh, there it is. Okay, so she put the link in there, and that link will take you directly to get the Investing for Success conference and all the bonuses. All right, so what questions do you have for me today? What would you like me to help you with when it comes to tax lien investing? By the way, what a lot of people tell me is holding them back from investing, or is their biggest challenge with investing in tax liens or tax deeds, is picking the right properties to invest and doing their due diligence, all right? So that is what we're going to be concentrating on for our next 2-day workshop. All right, it's going to be in February. Don't have the exact dates yet. It's not going to be 2 consecutive days. It'll probably be 2 different weeks in February because I want to let you actually try out some of the stuff that I'm going to be telling you how to do and then come back to me with more questions. So that 2-day workshop is also one of the bonuses, by the way, when you get the VIP access for the Investing for Success conference that we did last week. All right, so what questions do you have for me today? What can I help you with? What questions do you have about either investing in tax liens or tax deeds, getting started, or anything that is related to investing in tax liens or tax deeds? All right, and there's more people coming in now, so when you get here, just say hello, let me know who you are and what state you're in. All right, and if you missed the first part of this, make sure you watch the replay. It'll be here on Facebook when it's done, because I did have an announcement earlier. And okay, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right, Devlina. I hope that's the right pronunciation. All right, what tools do you recommend to find the next online auction? Really good question. And there's one tool that I use and I make it available to my coaching clients and members of the Tax Lien Profits Accelerator, and that is Taxsalefinders. And that lets you find out what tax sales are coming up all around the country. That's the main tool that I use. There are others that I use for specific types of sales, but that's the main one. Okay, so I hope that helped with that question. And hi, Ryan. Ryan asked, do you know when YEP, and I think that's the year-end penalty, is calculated in New Jersey? Is it 12/31 or 1/1? In other words, is it the end of the year, the end of December, or the first day in January? It's calculated to the end of the year, but it's actually given. It's not given until the first. So in other words, here's how that works, Ryan. Let's say you get a lien in New Jersey and you pay more than $10,000 in subsequent taxes. It's only on the subsequent taxes that you pay. It's not on the face amount, all right? But if you pay over $10,000 of subsequent taxes in one calendar year, so let's say you went to a tax sale in 2021, and if you bought a tax lien in 2021 and you went to a normal tax sale in New Jersey, a regular tax sale, not an accelerated sale, you bought 2020 taxes. But let's say in 2021, there were over $10,000 of taxes in subsequent taxes that you could pay, and you paid them in 2021. You would have had to pay them in 2021, all right? If you pay them now, it won't be applied, all right, yet, all right? But if you paid it in 2021 and it redeems sometime in 2022, it will be applied as of January, even if it redeems January 1st of 2022, it will be applied, all right? It is calculated, it's not calculated daily. The interest is calculated daily, but the penalty is just a straight penalty, I believe. I'm not quite sure about that, but I know you get it in January of the following year if it redeems. If it redeemed, let's say you bought that lien in 2021, you paid for 2020 taxes, you paid subsequent taxes for 2021 over $10,000, and it redeems in December of 2021, you don't get the year-end penalty. All right. You only get it as of January of the next year. Does that make sense? At least that's how I understand it works. All right. Shar says, just getting started, which state do you think is the best state to start investing in tax liens? Well, Shar, that depends on where you live and how much money you have to invest. It's different for everybody. It's not, I like New Jersey because I live near New Jersey. All right. And because I know the property values in New Jersey, I grew up and lived in New Jersey most of my life. But guess what? If I lived in Texas, then Texas would be my favorite state. It's very dependent on who you are, okay, and how much money you have to invest. Okay, all right. Devlina, I will call you Lena, but that tells me better how to pronounce your name. Okay. And you also asked, can we buy properties on Taxsalefinders.com? No. It is a tool. It's not a platform for buying and selling liens. It's a tool to give you access to tax sale lists. Actually lets you see the properties in the tax sales, but you can't buy them there. Okay. All right, so Ryan is asking, you have some really good questions about this, Ryan. Does the year-end penalty apply every calendar year or only year one? Here's how it works. You only get it once on year. So in other words, let's go back to that same situation. You went to a tax sale in 2021, you bought 2020 taxes, and you got to pay 2021 taxes and subsequent taxes, and it was over $10,000. So you're going to get, and it didn't redeem yet, all right? And you hold it for another year. So you're going to get the 6% year-end penalty if it redeems on the taxes you paid for 2021. But now it's 2022, and by November of 2022, there's a whole year of taxes due for 2022. And let's say you pay them every quarter, and you wind up paying over another 10,000, right? And then let's say it redeems in January 1st of 2023. Well, you're going to get 6% on what you paid in 2021, in addition to 18% annualized, right? So you're going to get the 18% annualized interest and the 6% year-end penalty on what you paid for 2021. And then what you paid for 2022, same thing. You're going to get the 18% annualized interest and 6% on that, but you're not going to get 12% on what you paid in 2021 on top of the 18% interest. So I know it's complicated. New Jersey is complicated, but I hope you understand it's still a really good, New Jersey is a really good deal. Okay. And yeah, it needs to be unpaid by the end of the year, and applies January 1st. But here's the thing, it only works if they, like, let's say somebody redeems it, but they don't get the redemption in time for that last day of the year. Well, then it's still going to apply. It's still not redeemed by December until the 1st, until January 1st. So I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, and it is amazing. New Jersey is why it is one of my favorite states. All right, Shar is in Georgia and she has $5,000. Unfortunately, $5,000 is not enough for Georgia. Georgia is a redeemable deed state. That means you're not bidding down the interest. You're bidding up the premium. You're actually bidding up the price of the deed. You're paying for the deed, even though you don't get it until after a year redemption period is over. Okay, that's kind of the difference between a redeemable deed state and a lien state, although there are lien states where the lien is bid up too. In New Jersey, the lien you could bid down the interest rate and then bid the price of the lien up. But it typically doesn't get bid up close to the value of the property because you're not really getting it's not a redeemable deed like Georgia is. Georgia's a redeemable deed. It gets bid up pretty high. All right. $5,000 is not enough for Georgia redeemable deeds. So, but it might be enough for land. And it's something that, like, if you were a coaching client, we would check it out. We would go to out of the way places, not around cities, and see if we could find vacant land for that much. But generally, it's not enough for Georgia. So you would look into other states, maybe neighboring states. What states are you close to? And North Carolina, South Carolina's redeemable deeds, North Carolina's deeds, so you'd want to stay away from them. Florida, it does have liens, and you can get liens a lot cheaper. So that would probably be your best bet. The lien sales in Florida, they're all online. They get bid down really low, but it's still a better deal. Okay. Because even though the Florida liens get bid down to 0.2, you have to go down to 0.25% if you're bidding on houses. Okay. And you might not want to bid on houses. You might want to bid on vacant land. You'll get a better results with that. But even if you bid on houses and you bid down to 0.25% and it redeems, you get the 5% penalty instead of the 0.25%. So you're going to get 5%. But the best part is if it doesn't redeem. If it doesn't redeem in 2 years, you get to do a tax deed application and apply for it to go to a deed sale. You have to pay all the subsequent taxes then, and everything starts accruing at 18%. So so Florida is actually probably would be the best state for you to start in. Okay. Yes, and it's online. Online makes it more competitive though, which is why you have to bid down to 0.25% to get anything with a house on it. Okay, but you could look at vacant land. Now, what I would do if you were in my membership program or if you were in a coaching client, we would try to find better places for you to invest and look at what happens to land or what has happened in the past with land in those places. And if you could get good rates on that. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Some great questions. You guys have some great questions today. Any other questions I can help you with or answer for you? Okay, and I'm going to give you a minute to think about any other questions that you might have. And I also want to ask Nicole to put that link in the comments again if you guys want to get the VIP access for the wealth building conference that we had. Just to give you an idea of some of the speakers that we had, remember the first day was about money mindset, how to manage your money to have your wealth build faster. And one of our speakers on day one was Renee Gabriel. And Renee is a best-selling author of the book, Wealth on Any Income. And at one point in his life, Renee was broke. And he started building wealth on a very average income. And in 5 years, once he figured out, now he talked about the 3 secrets of the wealthy. And once he implemented those things into, his finances, on an average income, he was able to become a millionaire in 5 years. So he was one of the speakers on the first day. On the second day, we talked about investment opportunities that you could take advantage of now. And I was interviewed on tax lien investing, of course, but then I interviewed 3 other experts. One was Arnie Abramson, who is the expert for Texas tax deeds. Another expert, Charles Sells, my friend Charles Sells, who I know, who I have known for years, talked about one of the hottest real estate markets in the country, that he's doing property flips and making that available to investors. So if you have the money, but you don't have the time and you want somebody else to do the work for you, he basically does all the work. And of course you have to have enough money for, he prefers his investors to have $100,000. You don't always need to use $100,000 for the investment. But he likes to make sure that it's not all the money that you have to live on. He doesn't want you to use that money to invest in properties with them. Okay. But then I interviewed Sarah Sullivan, who is going to be speaking tomorrow night at our wealth building webinar as well. But she talked about quitting your 9-to-5 with investments. So how to use investment opportunities to quit your 9-to-5. She retired from her 9-to-5, I believe at 40. So yeah, all about how to retire early by investing your money. And that's what we did on the second day. And Nicole has put that link in there to get the recordings from that conference that we did. All right. So, so we've got no other questions. No other questions. Okay. Is there anything else? Anything else that we have going on? I did tell you guys, so just re-listen to this if you weren't here for the whole thing. We do have a workshop coming up next month on how to choose the right properties to invest and do due diligence. That'll be a 2-day workshop, and that will also be a bonus to the conference recordings. So again, if you weren't here for this whole Facebook Live, you can always listen to the replay. It's going to be here, or watch the replay. It's going to be here on Facebook when we're done. Okay, and Nicole has also put the link to register for tomorrow night's webinar. All right, and we have one more question from Ryan. Is it necessary to go look at each property in New Jersey for the tax lien sale? If you're going to a live sale, I recommend that you go look at the properties. And this is also, if you're really familiar with the area and you know what the property values are, you might not have to, but I highly recommend you do this if you can. If you live in New Jersey, you're investing in New Jersey, and it's easy enough for you to do that, then look at the properties. If you're going to an online sale that's far away, you at least want to look at the properties on a Google map. The problem with relying on that is that some of those pictures are a few years old. And what might show as a house on a piece of property, there might not even be a house there anymore. Believe me, I've had a client who, before he started working with me, bought a property in an Indiana tax sale. And he looked at it online. He was investing from a distance, and there was a house on it when he looked at it online, but no house on it when he bought it, when he bought the lien, because the house it was actually a meth lab that blew up. It had burnt in a fire and then demolished. So there was no house there. And of course he did foreclose on it because it didn't get paid. Those are the kind of things that don't get redeemed. So that's why it's always good to look at the property before you buy it. Sometimes you can't. And you know what? If you're doing this large scale, like there are companies that do this large scale, and they might look at a lot of properties online and not go physically look at the property. but they're doing it on such a large scale that if one of these properties turns out to be a dud and they do get it, it's not going to cost them a lot of money, because what they make on the other liens that they have will make up for it. But if you're the individual investor and you're only investing in a handful of properties and you get one dud, it is going to make a difference to your bottom line. So if that's you, if you've got limited funds and you're only investing on a handful of properties, then I would look at them. Also, if you're investing in redeemable deeds or deeds, yes, you would look at them. Liens are different because you don't actually own the property and you can walk away from it. But redeemable deeds and deeds, you're actually bidding for the property, even though with redeemable deeds, you don't get it right away. All right. And Tenny, hi, Tenny. Tenny says, I bought tax deeds in Alabama. That is occupied. All right. So then you have to do the eviction if you bought tax deeds. And Alabama does both liens and deeds. So it's very important. If it's a lien, you cannot evict. If it's a deed, yes, then you own the property and you've got to record that deed. Once that deed is recorded, you've got to go through with the eviction. You've got to go through the sheriff's office, I believe, to do the eviction. All right. So are those all of the questions that we got? I will give another minute for questions. And if those are all the questions that we got, then I will see you next week. I will do another Tax Lien Lady Live next week. It will be here, and it will be at 2 o'clock, not at 2:15 like this one. I kind of got waylaid with card troubles today, so sorry about that. Lena, you have one more question? All right, shoot, what's your question? Well, yeah, I will wait for your question and answer one more question. And if anybody else has one, put it in now if you want me to answer it, okay? Last call. Last call. Okay. All right. So Lena's question is, what happens if the tax lien has not been paid and I get the property, but it is occupied? Okay. Just like Tenny said from Alabama, only they got a deed and it was occupied. You have to do the eviction. And depending on what state it is, what county it is, you usually go to the sheriff's office. Sometimes you have to go to a magistrate, and whatever the process is, you have to go through the eviction. But you would evict who's ever in the house. Okay, or if you're going to rent the house out and there's renters in the property, you would just knock on the door and say, I'm the owner now. You could pay your rent to me, you know. And I would have them, you know, sign a rental agreement also. But yeah, so you would either evict them or have them pay you rent. You know, it depends on the situation. This is something too that is on a case by case. You know, it depends on the particular situation. Okay, yeah, that's what Arnie says, Lena. That's right. Because in Texas, when you buy the deed, even though it's a redeemable deed, you actually own the property. So you could go knock on the door and say, "I'm the new owner." You know, once the deed is recorded, you knock on the door and say, I think there's a period of 10 days or something that you have to wait. And then you could say, knock on the door and say, I'm the new owner. You could pay your rent to me. Or if the owner lives there, that's a little different. Okay. All right. So I will see you guys next week. Don't forget, we've got a webinar tomorrow night with Sarah Sullivan, 15 ways to make money in real estate. Nicole has already put the link in there for you to register for that. It's free to come to the live call. And if you want the recordings, look, it's $490 a year to get the recordings of the wealth building webinars. But for $197, you could get it for a whole year. All right, instead of paying $490. Plus, get the recordings from the conference that we just did and last year's conference, and get in on our next workshop, which is another $197. $197. So it's a great value, and it's only good until January 31st. After that, I'm not giving those bonuses anymore with the conference. So take advantage of this now. Nicole has already put the link in there for that, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye, everybody, and Happy New Year.